Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grip Locked, Foundation Disc Golf's weekly podcast. I'm Hunter, joined, as always, by Trevor. But before we get into today's episode, I want to go ahead and take a moment to thank our sponsors. Support for Grip Lock today is brought to you by Manscaped, who's the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their fourth-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right. The 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer just for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code GRIPLOCKED. That's all one word, GRIPLOCKED at manscaped.com. So we actually went to Raleigh yesterday to film a few videos. It's this new series we're doing called the Bogey Bro Battles. Super fun series. You'll hear more about it soon. But it was a 3-hour car ride down, 2 rounds of disc golf in the hot sun in Raleigh, 3-hour car ride back. And my Manscaped boxers were a lifesaver. They didn't ride up the whole time that we were playing those rounds. All of that, they kept me cool. And unless I missed some social cues, I'm pretty sure they kept me smelling fresh down there as well. So definitely a good pickup. And Trevor, you're actually telling me that you recently traveled with the 4.0 as well.
Yeah, I traveled actually to Raleigh the weekend before that. So I got kind of my first travel experience. And as expected, just like the previous iteration, very convenient. You know, it's not a lot to pack away. It's, you know, the charger's super convenient with the wireless charger. And got to test out the travel lock feature, which is super nice. Gives you that peace of mind that you're not going to have it accidentally turn on in your luggage and just shred up all your valuables. So, yeah, it definitely worked out great.
Shred up all your valuables in more than one way. You can trust Manscaped to not do.
Yes.
So get 20% off and free shipping with code GRIPLOCKED at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with code GRIPLOCKED. That's all one word, GRIPLOCKED. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Your balls will thank you. Now, something that came across our desk here literally minutes ago was a video from Swanky Disc Golf.
Minutes ago, if you're late to the party, I mean, I saw this last night.
I didn't see this yesterday. I came out yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago.
It was just red hot on Disc Golf YouTube.
Yeah,
I'm surprised I didn't see it. I usually see a lot of this.
I completely missed it, but Swanky Disc Golf put out a video called "The Top 5 Most Overrated Discs," which with a title like that, you know it's gonna get steamy. You know that
fired up.
Yeah, you know that the comments were gonna be
brave
coming.
souls.
Yeah, he was a very brave soul for putting that out. So we're going to first off just go over his list because there's some pretty controversial ones on here. And then we're going to also give our top 5 most overrated. And then we're also, to end it on a little bit of a positive note with this segment, also give our top 5 most underrated. So discs that just don't get enough love out there.
We're going to make people mad, so we might as well make some people happy too.
Yeah. So let's just start with Swanky Disc Golf. And as soon as the video came on, I was watching it back here, so like everyone got to see my live reaction. But as soon as it came on, number 5, as soon as he said number 5, I was like, screw you, man. I was joking, but it got Connor to laugh really hard. So,
I did.
But I was also, in a much more real way, not joking. No, I was. But the number 5 was the Firebird, which I do disagree with. I don't think the Firebird's overrated. He was saying it's overrated because like it's just an overstable fairway. But here's my thing. It's the overstable fairway.
It's the original
That's
one.
true.
It's the one that started it all.
I agree with that because at first that was my first thought too. Like, well, I mean, it is just an overstable fairway driver. Like, it's not that hard to replicate, but they were the first ones to do that. Like, it was the first like popularized overstable fairway driver like that everybody used. So
yeah.
I don't think it can be called overrated because it's a classic.
He was also saying like it's overrated because of like how much some of them are going for, but he was choosing like Las Vegas Firebirds, Sexton Firebirds, like.
Now
that could be a Las Vegas
Sexton,
anything.
Now, if you would have just said like the Sexton Firebird, maybe I would have agreed with them. I'd have been like, yeah, it's a little overrated just because people are willing to pay so much for it. But I think that's what we talked about, like the overhyped.
Yeah,
because
overhyped.
Sexton Firebird, if it was readily available, it is a really good disc.
It's a great disc.
So I don't know if I'd call it overrated then, but overhyped, yes.
It's kind of the same thing that happened with the Get Freaky zones, where they were limited edition. The Sexton Firebirds limited edition, they get bought up. Once that like initial run hits and it all gets bought up super fast and then people start flipping them, every run in the future that's also limited is like a guaranteed sale. Yeah. Because even if like people don't want to throw them, with Sexton Firebirds, people love throwing them. Same thing with Get Freaky Zones, people love throwing them. But like even if people didn't, it was just the fact that like you know they're going to sell out, which makes them sell out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think you're right on the overhype there, but calling the Firebird as a whole overrated, I mean, I disagree with that one.
Yeah.
It's the disc that all other overstable fairway drivers are based off of.
Yeah,
exactly.
Everybody says, oh, it flies like a Firebird.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
You always base it back to a
Yeah,
Firebird.
I don't think
Like, it
it's
started it. It's hard to overrate the OG. Number 4, I disagree with for like a slightly different reason, but it's the Envy. The only reason I disagree with it is I feel like it's not really overrated because the only reason it even got popular recently was the shot.
Yeah, like
And that was so recently.
It's hard to get overrated in 2
phenomenal
weeks.
disc, but it's been underrated until a few weeks ago. It was a very underrated disc. Literally everything MVP is underrated for starters. Like all the stuff they make is super good.
Yeah.
So like I haven't thrown it all, but I can tell you it's all underrated because nobody's rating it.
You just took one of my generalizations I was going to say.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
that makes sense. But yeah, like I feel like so again, his point was like
It could get overrated.
They're going for a lot of money on eBay and stuff, but it's because they're not a lot in the market right now.
Yeah.
And
They're
people
rare.
are just now learning about it. But it's hard to say that's overrated because it's not like something where people have been like hyping it up for years.
Yeah,
and
when
years.
I think overrated, I think like you're saying it's a better disc than it is. I think that the Envy is actually a really amazing disc.
Yeah. Number 3, I'm interested to know if y'all agree with me here. I agree with him on this one. The Berg. Like it's cool. It's a cool disc,
Here's the thing.
but like
I disagree with this one because the Berg is not. How many people do you know in this area of Virginia that throw a Berg?
that throw a Berg,
Yeah.
not very many. But that tell me I need to throw a Berg, every single disc golfer. Maybe it's just because I go on Reddit.
Really?
But if I had
okay, I said in this area.
well, like the only disc golfers I play with in this area are in this room. Like when
That's not true. We play with guys from the club and all like
I know like 3 people in this area that either putt with or throw Bergs.
I think like people who would say that Berg is overrated are probably people within groups of disc golf friends that all talk about it because it's like one of
there
those
was someone in the
underground
comments that
brands.
had 6 Bergs in their bag.
It's an underground brand, so people that do throw it are gonna be very outspoken about it and how like, oh, you don't even know about the Berg. But like, I don't know if it has enough of a following for me to put it as a number 3 most overrated disc. Like,
I think it's up there. I feel like
like I don't
all the
ever see
time I see
throw
people
Bergs.
trying to, even in our comments, they're like, dude, you've got to do a Berg only round. It'd be so crazy.
I know what the
another
Berg
one that
is.
could be on this list.
What's
is
crazy about it? What's supposed to be crazy about
It's
it?
just a
It's
good
just
putter.
a slow disc with no. It's not
almost
even a
like
good
a-
putter.
it's
It's a
almost-
slow. I mean, okay, whoa, Hunter.
Oh, gosh.
Let's take a second. I'm saying like, it's just a slow
It's like a
disc with no
throwing
glide.
putter. Yeah.
So
It's
like,
a
what's
Rhino.
attractive to it is like it's hard to go past the basket.
It's like a Rhino. My dad used to have like 3 of them, and like I've thrown them, and
they're a good disc. They're a good putter.
yeah, Castoplast stuff
But
is nice, but
They're not like.
I don't think it's talked about enough, at least in my circle of disc golf.
I hear it all the time.
Never hear about it.
I hear.
Castoplast is like the really underground band that everybody's really proud
Like
of knowing.
like when Mumford and Sons first started getting big,
Yeah.
and everyone's like,
Yeah.
oh, have you heard of Mumford and Sons? That's the Berg.
I've thrown
I
at
was
least
that
5
person.
or 6 Castoplast molds, and like I've enjoyed all of
Castoplast
them.
is great. It's just not as readily available as it could be or should be.
I'm not.
But
If it were,
if I hear one more person try to tell me to throw a Berg, I might.
That's so
Who
weird.
makes
I just-
Castoplast plastic?
themselves.
Castoplast.
They make their own
I don't.
plastic.
I mean, it's in Sweden.
It's in Sweden. It's their own factory.
I don't know.
Well, then it's way better than a lot of the other companies. That
I-
make
Yeah.
plastic.
No, Castoplast is great.
I think it's just a personal one because I have not heard enough people talk about it at even close to.
That's very surprising to me. I feel like I see someone like anytime there's ever a like looking for a throwing putter, I see the Berg recommended so much, and I'm like, if like it's a new player, if it's a beginner and they're looking for a throwing putter, they don't want the Berg. That's gonna be the most demoralizing disc for them to throw.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna go out and be like, oh, sick, 200-foot shot. Everyone's saying I'm gonna throw a putter and rip the Berg and go 50 feet, and be like, what the heck? I just felt like I don't know.
I've never really enjoyed throwing. Like I used to throw a Rhino a bit, but I did it for more like touch forehand shots. Like those throwing the discs that don't glide and are just like kind of just drop out of the air. It takes a lot of skill, but
Yeah.
they are very useful.
They're fun,
They're very useful if you're good at it.
but
Like,
let's not act like
That's
the
why you're
Berg's
gonna-
the greatest putter to
that's why
ever
you
touch the
see
face of the earth.
Heimberg throw that Rhino all over people.
Yeah. So I agreed with number 3. Number 2 and number 1, this guy's crazy, but maybe that's
Especially
why.
This one,
Number 2, the Destroyer.
Such a dumb answer.
My thing is, it's the same reason for the Firebird.
Yeah, it's
the
the same
Destroyer is the distance driver that
Is-
every distance driver
yeah.
is based on.
Exactly. It is it's same with the Firebird. People say, "Oh, it flies like a destroyer." The Destroyer, number 1, is an awesome distance driver. So you can't say it's overrated because it deserves it. I will agree.
At this point, it's almost underrated.
Well,
People aren't talking about destroyers anymore.
New people don't even.
Why is that?
throw
Why
destroyers.
are people talking about destroyers anymore? What could that possibly be?
It's
There must be some kind of correlation.
I bet there's some type of player out there that really,
Man.
when they stop throwing a disc, it just kind of falls off the face of the earth.
That's crazy, man.
A company should look into that.
Yeah,
they're probably worth a lot of money.
They really should. Huh? Interesting.
Weird.
But the destroy.
Now is the time where I really wish I could understand social cues. Because I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Why is the destroyer?
Why is the destroyer? I was gonna say,
like, what?
I was like, dude, what?
Thought we were pretty obvious there.
Obvious joke I've ever made.
The destroyer is it is like the OG distance driver that is just awesome. Like it's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Like
I just feel like it's the distance driver that like everyone tries to make.
Overrated. You might call it overrated if you can't like. I think people get a misconception about the destroyer because they watch guys like Paul throw it back in the day and like
Or Ricky throw it right now.
and like they're like throwing them way straighter than you
Yeah.
ever could or I ever could. And maybe that's why you say it's overrated. You're like, well, it's not that good. Only those guys can throw that far. That doesn't mean the disc is bad. It's just an advanced player disc.
Yeah. It's probably the best distance driver ever made.
It's certainly up there. I would say it is.
I haven't had one in my bag in a while, but I think about it really often. Like, man, maybe I need.
It's
to put a
definitely.
destroyer
I'll
back
say
in my
this.
bag.
It's definitely as good as any disc.
Anytime I
driver
go to a
made.
mixed bag from like when I was with Prodigy, then I was with Discraft for a little bit. Whenever I go back to a mixed bag, the Destroyer is the first disc back in without fail. Whatever driver I'm like, oh man, I'm really feeling this disc. Whoop, out, Destroyer in. Because I
Destroyers
know
are
as soon
good.
as the Destroyer's in my hand, I'm gonna feel confident again.
It's a good disc.
And then number one, this one's gonna hurt a lot of people. The Luna is the number one most overrated disc. Now I don't know if this is like of all time,
That seems to be what he's saying.
but like it's got to be right. But
Or maybe it's just. I guess it's like this is like a current times thing.
now I'll
but-
give him a little bit of credit here because I do think that the Luna can be overhyped. Because like when the rubber meets the road, it's a very good putter, but it's not like a game-changing putter.
Yeah, here's.
Some people will call it like a very game-changing putter.
I love the Luna. I think the Luna is amazing, but I think the problem with. I think putters can be a bit overrated a lot of times. I hope I didn't just take another one of your generalizations. Okay.
No.
Because putters are being the slowest disc and having flights that tend to like be not that different from each other. They're the easiest disc to make a good one of, it seems
Yeah.
like. So like if I go to any company, I can have at least 2, probably 3 or 4 putter molds that all are really amazing. Like with Trilogy, I could pick up a Warden, a Judge, a Keystone, a Pure, like now this Faith that I've been putting with. There are so many putter molds, and all of them, if I throw them, I'll be like, this is a great putter.
Yeah, it's so subjective. It comes down to hand feel
Yeah.
for 95% of putters.
So calling it overrated is just, it's more of like the overhyped thing where
Yeah.
it's just so popular because, wait, why is it so popular?
I wonder if there's a correlation to the Destroyer with that.
Wait a second. Because, I guess Paul's
I
putting
understand.
with it. Yeah. I got that joke.
Well, my thing, Paul not only putts with it, but Paul is an underrated putter thrower.
Is he?
I think.
I think everybody.
Well, I
kinda
think it's just
knows.
like it's the same thing with most of the top pros. Is like they become so good at everything that like you just expect them. Like you expect Simon to throw a P2 450
The
feet.
Luna-
So when he does it, you're like, oh yeah, duh.
Luna's an awesome putter.
But like
I don't,
whatever putter Paul throws, like it used to be the Nova. People think it's like the greatest putter of all time. Not that none of them are bad
think that's a-
putters.
and that's a
it's
good
just
point.
Whatever
he can
looks
throw
good.
it on a dot. Like
Bringing-
he
Yeah,
knows
he can
exactly
throw
where
it
it's gonna land
350 and just have it
and
drop
land
on a pin.
perfectly.
bringing up the Nova and like the Berg and stuff, I think if you're gonna call a putter overrated, underrated, it's got to be a putter that is trying to be something different than just your typical straight to fade putter. So like you gotta have a putter that's actually trying to be something different, like the Berg or the Nova.
Yeah.
Like the Luna, it's just kind of like another one of those awesome putters.
Yeah, so that's
Calling
why
it-
I could see where some people would have it on the list, the number one of all time.
It's not an awful pick for your list, but number one, oof.
I mean,
about
that might just be like the clickbait factor of like, dude, you see this swanky disc golf guy? He put
Yeah,
the
he's
Luna as
moving
number
the
one.
needle, man. He's getting a lot of
I
traction
don't
on that
know.
video.
I don't know if the Luna is overrated just because there's not there are putters like it, but the feel specifically, I mean, the Roach.
Yeah, I say there's putter very much.
Yeah,
like it.
there's the Roach, and then the Warden from Dynamic is
pretty
like
close,
very similar.
yeah.
But the thing about the Luna is
The AVR is similar, the P2 is similar.
yeah, but it feels
just
better.
take a
I'm not gonna say it feels better, but it does feel a little bit.
just take a
different than
beadless putter and it feels similar to a Luna.
Yeah, that's true. But I feel like Lunas do like they
Necessarily.
fly. I think
P2
they
feels a lot different.
I think they fly further though. I mean, we know we've seen it. We all feel
They have great glide.
They have a ton of
I can
glide.
throw a roach just as far, and I can throw a P2 just as far.
You guys stop bringing up the roach.
I'm just
They're
saying.
the same thing.
I know. That's what I'm saying. They're not technically the same thing, but like
I think the Luna is considerably more stable.
it depends
You
on the
think?
Luna.
In
It
my
depends on the Luna.
I've thrown some stable roaches.
I've had
that
a
are more stable.
I got the Crystal Luna that like 5-time run, and
Oh, yeah.
it was the flippiest putter I've ever thrown.
Really?
It was flippier than my PA4s were.
It probably just depends then. But I've seen Brody throw a lot of roaches, and they are always pretty straight. And I've thrown Lunas, and now obviously we throw different speeds, but I've thrown Lunas that are like pretty obviously more stable.
It just depends on the run.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying is like that's true for all putters. You can
Yeah,
find a
yeah.
really overstable AVR and a really straight AVR.
Putters are such a preference
Yeah.
disc.
They
So that's
are.
why it's hard to call a putter in general overrated. Now, when we get to my list,
gonna do
I
it.
got a putter
Yeah,
that's
that's it.
overrated on my
I'm
list.
gonna do it.
But I'm just saying it is hard because they're so subjective that like some people, the Luna might literally be the putter that changed their game. Yeah. And so like it's hard to say that's overrated when that person's like, no, like the Luna's literally the greatest putter I've ever thrown. It's like, well, yeah, it probably is for you.
Yeah.
And it's probably not for someone else. I just don't think it's number one. But Swanky Disc Golf did. If you haven't checked out his video, he goes into more depth of why he calls them what. A lot of it was based on just like the aftermarket prices, which
Yeah.
that's an unfair judgment because any popular mold right now is going to sell for more
That's
because
hype.
they're not.
That's not judging on the like actual ability
Yeah.
of the disc.
Well, if the Luna was readily available right now, or the Envy was readily available to everyone right now, then there wouldn't be an aftermarket price.
Yeah.
It's just that the manufacturers can't make enough right now.
Right.
And just to be clear, it's not like this guy was like, everybody that throws a Luna is an idiot.
No, he called them all good
Yeah,
discs.
he was really nice. He wasn't
It
like
was a
just
good
jerk.
video.
No,
Yeah.
it's a great
Super nice
video.
guy.
No, yeah,
It just got
throw
just
some
funny.
likes on that video, man. He's
It
getting
got
a lot of
of-
he's getting a lot of heat because people were getting triggered. Like he was just sharing his opinion. So go throw some likes on that guy's video. Get that ratio up for him.
Yeah. Now, for us, feel free to rip us apart. Here's
Yeah,
our
you can
top
rip
five.
You can do whatever one does.
All right, overrated top five. I think. Do you have a top 5
Let's
list Connor,
go.
or no?
I don't have a top.
You
five
just
list,
have
though.
generalizations.
Yeah.
So I think we go like I'll say my number 5 and explain why.
Yeah.
You say your number 5,
Yeah.
and then we just go back and forth. All right. I'm about to break some people's hearts. I'm sorry.
Here it goes.
This is my top 5 most overrated discs. Mine. Okay. I'm not. This is my opinion.
Don't
here.
stop trying to pander, man.
Most
Just get into
important
it.
thing to be said before this. Everybody needs to listen to this. Overrated means that this disc is not a bad disc. I have all these discs on my list. Except for maybe one. I have bagged and I love as a disc. It just means that they are said to be better than they actually are.
I'm very curious how similar our lists are about to
like
be.
Basically, overrated,
Overrated
is like
does not mean we were saying
people
this
say
discs are bad.
this is life changing, nothing like it, but
Right.
then it's not life changing, and there's something like it.
exactly. Does not mean it's a bad disc.
Yeah.
When
Here we go.
That needs to be said.
This disc, I mean, everyone knows I used to love
There's
this disc.
actually there's 2 on my list that I hate.
Number 5. Number 5 most overrated disc, the Buzz.
That's number 5 on your list.
That's number 5 on my list because here's my thing. Everyone, and I agree, it is probably, I think the Buzz and the Rock 3 are like the 2 of the greatest mids of all time. But let's call it for what it is. It's a straight mid.
Yeah.
It's a straight mid that every company has a mold like it. Some people, it comes down to feel. Some people, the Buzz is the best feeling one of those mids. For me, it's the MD3. I've never been able to get a good release with the Buzz, so I had to take it out of my bag.
Yeah.
When you were at this craft, you didn't have a Buzz in your
Oh,
bag.
I absolutely did.
I used to have like 4 buzzes. In my
But
bag.
do you have any in your bag now, Connor?
No.
I threw more wasps, but I did throw buzzes.
Okay. So, but all I think is, I feel like every time a mid range gets brought up,
It's buzz.
the Buzz and the Rock 3 could have been put right here as well. The Buzz and the Rock 3. Because I feel like those are immediately just like, oh my word. Whereas for a beginner, a Buzz can be pretty freaking stable.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True.
But people immediately like, oh, first disc, you gotta get a Buzz.
If you get a lightweight
Got
one,
to
Yeah.
get a Buzz.
if you
I'm
do
like,
get, I think if you get a lightweight one though, it would
they're
work
still
for you.
overstable.
Yeah. they
For a
can be.
beginner,
It
if you're
depends.
throwing 100 feet,
Okay, 100. Yes, 100 feet. You're right.
we're talking about beginners. Most beginners aren't stepping up and ripping a mid 220 when they're first starting.
Okay, there's a big difference between 100 and 220. That was a pretty big jump.
I think a Buzz at 200 feet's overstable.
Okay, I'm not really gonna give my
I'm just-
commentary.
I think
on
a
your
buzz
list
at
yet.
300 feet is overstable.
Well, it depends on the Buzz.
I know.
Once you get to 300 feet, some Buzzes are flippy.
Yeah.
I just think that a lot of people overrate that.
Okay.
No feedback?
I'm not going to.
I'm
giving you
feedback
because there's
on
going to be
yours. I agree with
similarities between our lists, and the buzz is on my list.
Okay.
I
So that's why
will
I'm
go
not
out and say
going to.
I agree with
Maybe
you.
we'll have you be the unbiased because you didn't make a list.
I would.
Okay.
I would.
So you tell us if we're crazy or
I would
not.
give you.
I don't think you're
feedback.
crazy. I think the Buzz is a great disc. It's one of my favorite flying discs.
Yes.
I have just never been able to release it in a way that makes it fly to where I'm happy. Because it's not comfortable to me.
I will give you feedback, but the buzz is on my list, so I want to save my thoughts.
Okay.
My number 5 disc is the Cloudbreaker.
That's on my list too.
And here,
They were not near each other.
No,
whenever they
we
were playing
made
this.
sure we did not.
I know some of the
correlate.
discs that they said, but they weren't near each
the
other.
Cloudbreaker, and I know a lot of you're saying, well, wait a second. That's just the overhyped thing you're talking about. No, the Cloudbreaker, the real reason that it's overrated is because, A, Discmania has incredibly passionate fans. So Discmania fans are going to swear by every disc that comes out. Now, to be fair, Discmania produces a lot of great discs. And the DD3, there's nothing wrong with it. But the problem is, the reason it's overrated is because when people talk about the DD3 or the Cloudbreaker to me, the first thing they say is, did you see that throw that Eagle made with it? Did you see Eagle throw that forehand flip up or that massive high? None of us can throw that with the DD3. So that is like, I don't have a problem with it as a disc. And this has nothing to do with the fact that it is so expensive and so limited and rare. It has everything to do with the fact that anytime somebody has tried to pitch the DD3 to me, which has been a lot, it's because they literally immediately go to, did you see what Eagle can do with it? And we cannot do that to that disc. The people's perception of the DD3 is based off of a flight that we will never achieve.
The
with
flight
the DD3.
of someone who throws 700 feet.
Yeah. So that is my complete
This is
reasoning
actually a
for it.
perfect transition because the DD3 is number 4 on my list.
Good.
And my reasoning was it's a destroyer. Did we all just go to sleep and forget that
That's a
first
good
run,
point, yeah.
the first run of DD3s were literally embossed destroyer on the bottom?
Yeah.
Like, did we not remember that happened?
Yeah. It's a good
Like,
point.
I don't understand. People are like, this is the greatest driver to ever come out. And I'm like, it's
been
It was
out.
a destroyer.
Well, it was like advertised as like one of the furthest flying discs you can get, but that's because it
true.
was Eagle's disc.
Yeah.
It was the first
Every
flying
disc is the furthest flying
You can put a
disc,
putter in
yeah.
that guy's hand.
I
It's going to go
know.
farther. But my thing is like, if you put a destroyer in Eagle's hand, you're going to get that flight.
Yeah.
It's just that like they needed to make a Discmania branded one.
Right.
And so I put DD3 / Cloudbreaker because that's the other thing is people are like, no, you're talking about stock run DD3s, the Cloudbreaker. And I'm like, you think they put swirly S-line plastic into a mold and it suddenly changes everything about the
Yeah.
disc? Like, it's still a DD3.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Connor, thoughts? Overrated?
I
You good?
agree. I agree because whenever it first came out, I was like, that disc is going to go 100 feet farther than anything I have.
And then it came in, you're like, I have 5 destroyers in my bag already. What did I
Yeah.
just do?
Why did I do this?
All right. Okay.
Why did I
list?
trade in all my destroyers to save it for
For one of the same thing. All right, so my number 4, this is a bit of a personal one. I've got a couple in here that are kind of personal issues. And my number 4 is the AVR 3.
Okay.
And
100% agree with
Yeah.
you. That disc sucks. The AVR 3
I love
is
that
garbage.
I know.
I love that disc.
So-
It sucks.
Hey,
Here's the
walking
thing.
on thin ice, mister. That
the
disc is
AVR
great.
3, when it came out, I didn't immediately have one. And everybody, including this guy here, and to be fair, I knew people like Hunter who threw the AVR 3 and had tremendous success with it.
That disc is great.
When Hunter
I'm
took-
putting that back in my bag out of
When
spite for
Hunter
both of you.
took
Do it.
the AVR 3 out of his
Do it.
bag, or when my doubles partner Pete took the AVR 3 out of his bag, I was confident in them. They were good with it. I then finally got my hands. It was a flamethrower stamped, Liberty stamped.
That was a good run of them
AVR
too.
3. Well, they were all the same. They were just flat.
They all suck.
That's what the 3 is.
I know. That's not the problem with the disc. And I was like, all right, finally. My upshot game is about to change. This thing's going to be great. It's going to be nice, like dependable, stable AVR. Here's my experience with the AVR 3. My experience with the AVR 3 was if I threw on any amount of hyzer, it was going to dump so hard left that
Throw
it was
faster,
useless.
man.
And then if I threw it flat at all, it was rolling. Like, it was the
So
most...
this disc is overrated because your technique?
No, it was the most
'cause
angle-sensitive disc I'd ever thrown
Y'all
in
are
my life.
crazy. I would throw flex shots with mine.
Maybe the ones I had were trash. And here's the funniest part about this is I actually have an ace with one. So like
That's hilarious.
I have all that sentiment and I still hate it.
Here's my thing.
I did not like it at all.
When is the last time you heard an AVR 3 recommended?
It wasn't that long ago. Where was I just? It was,
You're right. I haven't heard about it in a while. But
So
it was,
how is it overrated?
But it was very overrated
When it came out.
a few years ago.
Sure.
4 years ago.
When every disc comes out, it's very overrated initially.
Nah. There was
it
a
didn't
long stretch.
No, it didn't come out 4 years ago. But
Yeah,
I'm
it did.
saying from when it came out up until about 4 years ago. No, it came out.
It had a
probably.
It had a long stretch.
I want to
of
say
overratedness.
at least 6 years ago, maybe 7.
You might be right. I'm looking it up.
I'm curious.
I just like the AVR 3. I never hear it.
Here's the thing.
Like
I had to put this on my list. These days, you're right. It's probably not overrated because guess what?
2017. It came out 4 years ago.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
That was my freshman year. That's when we got them.
Holy crap!
But here's the thing. Nothing other than Discraft stuff is going to be like right now overrated because guess what? The only thing that's popular right now is Discraft stuff. And maybe
But I feel like the
Discmania.
AVR 3 was never that hyped up.
Yeah,
It was
when it first
hyped.
came out.
It was
when
so
it first
hyped.
it was
came out.
everything.
Yeah, it
But
was so
name
hyped.
one pro that threw an AVR 3 and pushed
Paul
it.
Jeremy
bagged it, but
Colling.
Colling was big on it.
Yeah.
Colling was like one of the big ones on it.
And
for
at that
sure.
time, Jeremy Colling was a huge pro.
yeah, Jeremy Colling was moving the needle back then.
Okay, hold on.
I had a
let me-
Pink Photo one.
Everybody around us was
I've got
throwing
to.
it.
I've got to give
That's-
my opinion on the AVR 3 because I'm
Everybody in
very
college
strong.
was throwing
I
it.
forgot how much I hated.
I
the AVR
hated it,
3.
man.
Why? That disc is
let me
so
tell
good.
you. I'll tell you why. Because I got an AVR 3, and this is a genuine opinion. Like it's not.
Just let it out.
It's
Come
not
on,
tainted.
man. I don't care.
Let me tell you, it's not tainted from
You've
a
already hurt
comparison
me.
to another disc. So that's why I think this is a good opinion. Because I got the AVR 3 back whenever the first 2 years I was playing, I had an AVR 3 in my bag for 2 years from whenever I started, and it never ever did what I wanted. And this is what hold on. Because I would see other people. Okay, let me just explain. I basically exactly agree with Trevor. It was never as overstable or ever as understable as it should have been.
So you just
So
expected
you-
a different disc.
No,
It
I
just
expected
never-
a disc
yeah.
to fly the same.
Yeah, it flew different.
It was
every
the
time I
most
threw it.
inconsistent disc I've ever thrown.
Y'all are
Because-
crazy.
No, it was the
You
same way.
watched me throw it.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I think I had bad runs. Like the
Here's
three
the thing.
or so I
I've
think were
had
all
5
trash.
different AVR 3s. I kept on trying and I
Maybe
kept
it's
on
like
trying.
my throwing style.
And maybe
but-
it is, but
Oh, it was bad.
I would throw it sometimes.
I'm only gonna throw AVR 3.
Now I want to say this
Do it.
too.
Feel your-
They
but
came
I
out
had I had 4 different friends. We all had AVR 3s, and we all wanted to like it so much.
I wanted
because it
to
was
like it
so
so
cool,
bad,
and we
dude.
all hated it.
That's the thing.
How?
It is very tough for me.
I had
to
like
wanna
one
like
good
a
throw
disc.
with it, so I kept it in my bag.
It is very tough for me. Same. It's very tough for me to want to like a disc and not like it. I will convince myself that a disc is good. I couldn't convince
I
myself.
threw that thing all the time.
Now, I will say
Flip
this.
up lines, Heiser forehand.
Innova then came out with the AVR X3. Phenomenal disc.
That was just a little
It
more
was
stable.
better.
Exactly, because it didn't
But at
float
least
on
you
the
knew it was gonna
spectrum
be
of
stable.
what
Yeah.
where it's trying to do.
Yeah,
It was just an
I think y'all
overstable
just
putter.
misunderstood it.
Maybe I did. I didn't have a clue. what
in
it was
my
trying to
head,
say to me.
you're right. You're probably right because in my head, I expected it to be like an
I've got
approach
bad
disc,
memories with that
and it's
disc.
just not.
I've
Yeah,
got
it's like a driving putter.
Yeah, I just
But
hated it.
I
But
know
it,
the other
it's so
thing
flat,
is-
you feel like it should be stable.
Yeah,
It's stable.
I wanted
It's straight.
my driving
weird.
putter to fly like the P2, where it was like always gonna be consistent, and I had struggles with that.
Man,
It was just-
I
it
didn't
might-
know this list was gonna hurt
You're
me.
so right. You
AVR
threw it. You threw it on.
sucked.
You threw it on. You threw it on
that hurt
Heiser.
me deep. I know how the comments feel. I might comment on this Grip Lock podcast.
Trevor's so right. You threw it on Heiser and it dumped like crazy. And you're like, why didn't that go anywhere? You threw it flat
Mine
and
was
it
so
never
glidey.
fades.
Yeah.
it
Y'all
just
are
goes to the right
crazy.
and never
I don't-
fades.
How, were you throwing it on Heiser from 100 feet and then throwing
Dude,
it
I don't-
flat from 300?
I don't know.
I
man.
could throw it hard on Heiser
I
and it would
don't-
Heiser.
yeah.
If I threw it hard flat, it would just never come back.
It was so weird.
Mine
for
like did
me.
that like pushing
I
Heiser.
think, hey, let's get it. Do we have any? Let's do you have
Yeah,
some? Let's
I have
get.
some.
Let's throw them again.
Let's have let's give
Let's
it a
give him
second.
a
we have
second
some in
chance.
stock.
Let's give him a second
second
chance because that's what I'm saying. That's what I led off with. I have seen this disc thrown.
No, man, you hate it. You're a hater.
so well.
How
I do
dare
hate
you?
it.
Yeah,
I'm not
you're right.
denying that, but I've seen it.
Let them know
thrown
in the
well.
comments.
I know the disc can apparently be thrown well, but
amazing. I love
man,
that disc.
it got hyped. It just disappointed me.
I
It was
would
the
love.
letdown.
I would love to see myself throw that disc well.
This was
because
it's a
never
personal
happened.
answer because I was so excited about this disc and then it always let me down.
Well, I feel like I shouldn't have went that hard because I'm about to say one that's probably gonna get the same reaction out of
I
Trevor.
feel like I was just in a therapy session.
what is this? Your number?
My number 3,
Which is
my
what?
number 3 most overrated disc is the Judge.
Yeah,
Because
you're clueless,
here's
bro.
my thing. Here's my thing.
You're clueless.
And this is a better reason I feel like than the AVR 3.
Okay.
I have had great experience with the Judge. I think
Okay.
it's a great putter. But let's call it for what it is. It's just a beaded putter. People immediately act like the Judge is like God's gift to humanity.
So you're saying
as
it's
the
like
greatest putter.
You're saying
of all
it's like
time.
the Buzz equivalent for putters.
Yeah.
It's like people.
It's like people immediately like, oh man, I'm struggling with my putt. Like the Judge is the answer. Like no, you don't. I don't like beaded putters. I don't care. The Judge is the answer. Like
yeah.
whoa,
I'm
whoa.
not really gonna argue that super hard because
Like I feel like I've seen the Judge recommended so many. Not that it's a bad putter, or shouldn't be recommended.
It's the best
but
beaded
let's not
putter.
act like.
It's the best beaded putter I've thrown. I will
But
say
there's
that.
the Wizard's pretty far up there.
I've never thrown a Wizard.
Okay.
So I don't know, but
I'm
I've
just
thrown
saying-
a KC AVR and I've
That's
thrown
what
a
I was about to say. I
Challenger.
feel like it's KC
and the
AVR.
judge,
KC AVR is a little more stable than a Judge.
Yeah, the judge glides and goes way further than a KC AVR.
I just think that
lower profile.
people act like it's like. It's again, they act like it's going to change your
It's
game
like
entirely.
it's kind of
by
like
putting a Judge in
Discmania,
your
where
bag.
dynamic guys are very passionate about.
It's a
Dynamic
great
plastic.
disc. It's
Any
a great
putting
The
putter
Judge is great.
No putting putter is going to make you putt better.
Exactly. Except for the Judge, apparently.
If it's
Putters
comfortable
are-
in your hand, it might give you more
Putters
confidence.
is just a very hot
but-
topic. And
Yeah.
they're very subjective, so that's why people get passionate about.
Yeah.
Them.
People get very passionate over the Judge, and every
don't
time
know
I'm
if-
like, it's a good disc, but like,
Listen,
you're not gonna magically start making 30 footers because you put a Judge in your bag.
Yep.
yeah, well, I'll never argue for a putter because if it's inside the circle putting ability.
That's what the Judge is
Unless
always
it's an
pushed for. I feel
AVR3.
like. People are like, oh,
Yeah.
you're struggling with your putt. You need a
mean,
Judge, man. You need a Judge.
It's a great putter, but like, yeah, I'm not gonna. If those are the claims you're getting, I understand why it's on your list.
Nah,
'Cause
that's
that
exactly
would-
why it's on my list.
That frustrates.
Because like if you're airballing your putts right, the Judge isn't magically going to be dead center. You're going to still airball right.
Yeah, I'm a bad putter no matter what I'm putting with. But as a thrower, the Judge is very good for me.
No, the Judge is a great disc.
Yeah,
It's a
it's a
shame
great
that it
disc.
had to be on my list,
It's
but
a
it had
shame.
to.
I understand.
a shame.
All right, number 3 on my list is also gonna be on Hunter's list. I know this, and it's the tilt. This is the most obvious answer.
is on my list.
This is the most obvious answer.
can't believe
for
that's
this
only
whole
number 3.
thing. Well, this is my reasoning why. I could put it as number 1, but my reasoning is that I think the tilt is just ridiculous enough that enough people get the joke. Like they get that, yeah, it's ridiculous, but it is cool. I think if it were like to where I think there is a lot of people who are like literally like, no, you have to try the tilt. It's so awesome. But I think there's enough people that are like, okay, it flies like a normal disc upside down. It's ridiculous. To like a lot of the legit disc golfers, the good players that I've interacted with that have thrown it, say that. They're like, yeah, it's ridiculous, but it's funny.
Yeah.
So like that's
everybody
why
agrees it's a cool disc.
yeah,
It's cool that
so I
somebody
won't
made
put it as high on my list. But that being said, it still is overrated because there are a lot of people that are like pushing it like it is like actually useful in your bag. And unless you
Yeah.
throw a very particular shot a lot,
Yeah.
or you have like Simon arm speed, it isn't useful in your bag. It's not like
A Firebird will fly similar for 90% of distance.
Well,
Yeah.
it's if you have Simon armor speed, but with no speed control. So you need something that gets to the ground if you throw as hard as you can.
yeah.
Like most people are gonna be able to throw the tilt like 75 feet.
Yeah, I've thrown
I don't
one.
understand.
I've thrown one, and it's frustrating how ridiculous it is. So that's why it's on my list.
Well, it's gonna be on my list, but I won't say
Okay.
it yet because we're at number 2 now, right?
Yeah.
Number 2, I would be surprised if this isn't on your list. The Loft, Hydrogen Luft or Loft, whatever
I
it
didn't
is.
think about that one. It's
I don't
not
know
on
if
my
is it the
list.
Hydrogen is the disc
Yeah.
and Loft is the company?
Yeah.
Or Luft. It's the L-O. How do you pronounce the O with the line?
I think
through it?
I think the company's hydrogen.
and the Loft.
Only
People
'cause
know what
the-
I'm talking about.
Only because they say hydrogen loft. They don't ever say loft
That's
hydrogen.
true. Hydrogen Loft. But is how do you pronounce that O slash? Luft?
I thought it was, only heard it called loft, even on
They'll
their
know what we're
commercial for
talking
it.
Yeah.
about.
Okay.
In their like advertisement, they say
Call it
loft.
Loft. Okay. My thing about it is I think it's so over. It's a straight putter that's a 1-speed.
Yeah.
That exists in so many facets.
One speed.
The reason it generated all the hype is because of the 1-speed thing, and we could literally come out with a putter tomorrow and make it a 0-speed, and it could fly however it wants
Well,
to.
my thing is they
no
were
restriction
acting.
on it.
People were acting like why? That's right. There's no 1-speed putters. There's the Birdie. Berg is a 1-speed. What's the other lid? Polecat.
They
Like
exist.
there's a ton of 1-speed putters out there. It's just
Probably
they're
the
not
putter,
popular.
the PUTR or whatever from Discraft. I don't know what that
Maybe
is.
I don't know, but that was my thing. Is like when your marketing is based on flight numbers that are made up anyways. I could come out with an 18-speed putter if I wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why not?
because there's
Smart
no
marketing,
there's no
but-
rules for it.
Yeah, but it just got so overrated where everyone's like, "Oh my word." To be fair though, people are getting them in now, and I haven't heard anything else about them.
I just saw one thrown the other day, and it went like a straight putter. But guess what else does that? Like a Nova.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is
Like a Luna.
if you want to
Yeah,
throw a
like
straight
any
putter,
putter that's a
go
straight
pick up
putter.
a AVR, a Roach,
Putters
a
just
Warden.
fly. They
Like
all
putters
fly
are
so
straight.
similar because they don't have to get up to speed very much. Like
Yeah,
it's just that's the way
they're just
putters
straight
fly.
putters.
Yeah.
So like,
You can't. I just don't see how people are starting companies based off of one premise, and that's we're making a putter like no other.
Yeah.
Well,
because
okay. Well,
you're gonna
this
have to-
company
yeah.
is going to make more discs, I believe.
Okay.
It's not like EV7 is basically they're only making putters, nothing else.
Yeah.
This company, I believe, is going to make other discs. But what's their next one going to be?
A
The
2-speed
first
bag.
19-speed driver. Why are we only throwing 12 speeds?
It's just like your entire
and it's
hand
like
is like that.
It's just a
right?
10-speed.
Yeah.
It's just we were thinking.
That was a good submission there.
Yeah, we were thinking.
Super
Why are
overrated.
our drivers only 12-speed? If we made it 19-speed, they go farther. So here it is.
We wrote the number 19.
I would
on
say
there.
it's going to be even more cemented and overrated though is when people start getting them in. If we keep hearing about it and people actually talking about
It's almost not a bad thing
'Cause it
that
was
we
all
haven't heard
hype
anything about it
originally.
because I feel like if they weren't good, then we would hear about how they're not.
Well,
good.
people are probably getting them in and be like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a putter.
Yeah.
nice putter.
The people probably aren't like, oh my
Well,
gosh.
it's kind of the same with the EV7 because the EV7 we were all like, oh my gosh, I'm so
Yeah, you don't
excited
hear
for it
much
to
about the
come in.
Penrose anymore.
But I mean, it's fine. It's pretty good.
yeah, because it's a good putter.
It's a great putter. Yeah.
But it's a putter.
Yeah, it's putter.
Like it just kind of does what you expect a putter to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's better than the AVR 3. I'll give it that.
Man,
All right.
y'all are doing the AVR 3 dirty.
I would like to try the AVR 3. I think it's a good idea for a video.
Number 2 on my list, and this is gonna be an interesting submission because I'm not sure how you feel about this one.
Okay.
Number 2 on my list is the Shrike. Now, this is an interesting submission because
Who throws the Shrike anymore?
You're right.
Okay.
It used to be.
Once again,
A lot of your list is used to.
Yeah, get in
the
the.
only
This
relevant
podcast
Get with
wasn't
the times,
This
dude.
podcast
Hunter,
isn't 2017.
the only relevant stuff these days is like Discraft stuff. If you're going based off of that, sometimes we have to
Well,
talk
then
about.
what's the Discraft version of the Strike?
And we didn't say
Hades.
this list.
The
wasn't-
Hades isn't
this
overrated,
list- The
man.
name
How
of this
dare
list
you.
wasn't overrated right now. It was overrated. It could have been.
But like,
Here's the thing.
you
Just let me
your
explain
Shrike.
myself. Like this is still like.
Nope.
No, you explain. You
The
explain your
reason
Shrike.
why I think the Shrike is overrated is not because I used to throw a Shrike. The Shrike was a cool disc, but the Shrike was pushed towards players with lower arm speeds to get more distance. But then the disc itself was a very uncomfortable wide rimmed driver. It was not. If you were trying to push lower arm speed players to get more distance, you should have them throwing glidey 10-speed discs or 9-speed discs, not 13 speeds. So
makes
it's like
sense.
one of those marketing things where like, here's a 13 speed that the lower arm speed player can throw. You can,
That's kind of an oxymoron.
yeah, you can do that, but you should throw the 10 speed and 9 speed and you'll get the same amount of distance probably, and it'll be more comfortable in your hand. So that's like my whole thing with it is I think it was just like an oxymoron of a marketing thing.
Here's where I disagree with that.
Why?
Because I think where they were coming from more so is they knew at that time when the disc came out.
Or no, was it a 14 speed? Was it the first 14 speed or
No,
second?
I
it
don't
was
know.
a 13 speed, but it was really a 12 speed. It was the same rim width as a destroyer in your hand.
I thought it felt wider. In my
I threw it all the time.
I
Paul,
did
Paul
too.
put one in his bag because he said it felt like a destroyer but flipped.
I had one in my bag for a while.
But that was so. Here's my thing: is I think the reason that it came out was because they knew beginner players were going to buy a 12 speed, anyways, and so why not make one that'll fly good for them? The initial run of Shrikes that
fair.
I had were way too overstable for beginners. Those are the ones that Paul was throwing at 2017 Aussie Open.
Some of those Domi ones.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Domi Hades.
Yeah.
But then they went back and they remade it so that by the time the Shrike was like in like rotation and was a normal disc, if you're throwing 350, it was way too flippy for you. But people who were throwing 220, I have a friend, Logan. We did a review back in the day on a different channel I was on, and we did a review of the Shrike. And he was throwing like 200 feet with most of his discs. He ripped the Shrike 320 because it was fast and he could actually get a full flight out of it for him, which is exactly what the Shrike was advertised to do.
I have a hard time believing that he couldn't throw like a beast the same distance if he could throw a Strike that far. Is what I'm saying.
Maybe, but the whole idea was the beginners are going to 12
That's a good
speeds.
point. That's a good point.
So might as well make one
That's
that
a good
they can
point.
throw.
I personally, I felt like it was a bit overrated because it was like the EVR3 when
I
it
also
came
felt
out.
like it wasn't.
People talked so much about the Strike,
But that
when it
was
came out.
because Paul was throwing the Paul could throw the Shrike, the overstable Shrike that he had like 650. Like that thing went so
Right.
freaking far
So
on
that's-
Anheuser.
I think that created a bit of overrated hype around it, like just like the Cloudbreaker kind of effect, where like I think.
But now you're getting to a
bit-
confusing line of overhyped versus overrated because
I
the disc
think-
did exactly what it was supposed to do for players. But it was very hyped up.
I don't
I'll
know.
agree.
I don't know about that. I don't know. I think it's just a bit of a meh disc for all the hype that it had. That's all I feel.
I disagree. I think it did exactly what it was supposed to do.
I don't think so. and that's the podcast.
Agree to disagree.
Wait, so then how do you feel about the Hades?
What do you mean how I feel about the Hades?
Is the Hades not the exact same thing?
As the strike?
Yeah.
It feels different. I actually kind of think that now that I think
Well, it feels different, but I'm saying all the
it
points you
feels
brought up,
different.
marketing wise and everything.
Yeah, it's similar.
Is it not the same thing? Same
Right.
idea?
Yeah, I would say is pretty much the same idea.
So then if you're going by modern day, why wouldn't you put the Hades there
I
instead
just
of the
didn't
strike?
think of it, but that is a good point.
So you would put the Hades as your number 2 overrated.
Yeah,
You're
actually, I
putting
would.
words right into his mouth,
If you
man.
if you get a stable Hades, here's the thing though. If you get one of the stable Hades, it is actually like super useful as a more advanced player.
Yeah.
But if you have one of the true like the Hades that they were meant to be fly, then yeah, I do think it's overrated.
But okay, but how do you not realize that like for a less advanced player, the true Hades flies like the Domi Hades flies for a more advanced player?
I understand that, but I don't.
So like every player can find their Hades that
I'm
flies
done with
like
this
the Hades we've done.
conversation. It's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere good.
I'm picking your brain because I think there's logical
I just
fallacies
think that
in
we
your
shouldn't
argument.
encourage. I think we're in this disc golf is in this mode of encouraging beginner players to throw the fastest. And I understand what you said about they're going to do it anyways, but maybe we should try more to not make them do that.
But they've been trying that for years.
Maybe they need to try.
Hey, go to the
harder.
Roadrunner, go to the sideline.
Trilogy
go to
does
the
this
Heat.
cool thing where they like make discs that are literally called the easy to throw line, and the fastest they get is a 9 speed or a 10 speed.
Yeah, well, that's what beginners should be throwing.
And that's a good idea.
But
I
here's
like
the
to see
thing.
more companies
beginners,
do that.
I think there's two types of beginners. They're beginners who take their game seriously,
Here's the other thing,
and they'll
though.
go online and they'll start throwing putters and mids like they should because they'll read and find that they should. Then there's the beginners who aren't going to take their game serious because they just want to play disc golf. They don't care. They're going to go to the store and find the fastest
my
disc and be like, dude,
experience,
I
though.
actually heard the Hades and the Strike is actually good for beginners, and look, it's a 13 speed. It's going to go so far.
My
It's better to
experience-
put that in their hand than a destroyer.
My experience though was I was that second kind of beginner, but for me those newer discs didn't exist. I went and bought a really like stable 13 speed, learned my lesson very much immediately as soon as I threw it, and then disc down. So like I was immediately.
But you were
learned
taking
my
your
lesson.
game seriously.
I think a lot of people getting into disc golf take their game pretty seriously. I
If they get into the sport.
Yeah, okay, that's what. But like, so I don't think it's a problem to like learn your lesson and then like learn from that instead of just like going straight to the higher speed. I don't really think it's a huge issue. Anyways, this is not meant to be like some big
I
discussion.
mean, you
I just
you
thought
put
the strike was a little overrated. That's all. That's
you
all
put
I thought.
number 2 on your list. A little overrated is
Yeah.
number 5.
Yeah, that is a good point.
I wouldn't
He-
argue if
you
it was
did
number
put it
5.
on number 2.
You put it number 2. That means you have some strong feelings towards it.
Just swap the order really quick.
Maybe I just couldn't think of enough overrated discs.
All
I'm
right.
not nearly as passionate about these as I am.
You
about
started
the
at
overrated
5. You
discs.
should have started at 1.
Number 1 for me is the tilt.
See,
And like
That's
it's
dumb.
pretty much how.
because I don't think it's overrated. I think most
You
people.
literally was number like 2
I
on your
kinda
list.
think it's
Or 3
overrated.
on your list.
What? Yeah, but I explained why I have it at 3 instead of like 1, where it's like I think most people that I've interacted with are just like, yeah, it's ridiculous.
It might be because I read our comments all the time, but the
Are
amount
there
of
that many
comments that
people
I
encouraging you to throw tilts?
everyone's saying, dude, how have y'all not thrown the tilt yet? The tilt is like it's so game changing. It's amazing. You got.
I feel like I've
tilt.
seen so many people who like really want a tilt, and only a small percentage of them want it. Just ironically, most of them are like, "Oh, I need this disc in my bag. Oh, I need that."
Yeah,
disc.
like that tilt is going to be so useful.
I will
And I'm like,
say
for what?
there is like a overstable plastic is addictive. Like I used to be that
Yeah.
guy who was like, I need at least one disc in my bag that is uselessly overstable to where like it will never go right, not never. And that's what I used to have with that Glow H1 I had back when I threw Prodigy stuff. That disc was like not even really useful except for very unique situations, but I liked having it there. It made me sleep. It helped me sleep.
See, that's
at
the thing
night.
is, I had an H1 in my bag,
But I've thrown the tilt now, and it is way more overstable than that.
but like that's what I'm saying. I had the glow. I didn't even have a glow H1. I had a normal OG H1 in my bag. But then I was like, after like a month or 2, I took it out because I'm like, I'm literally like trying this disc as much as I can. I'm throwing it as hard as I can. It's going 200 feet and then skipping a mile. Like what? This disc doesn't do anything for me.
What I found with my
The issue with Prodigy though was there wasn't that in between Thunderbird.
So you had
to.
to.
So if
You
you
have
wanted
a
like a
choice.
Firebird type disc, you had to just take your H1 and hope you beat it up enough to fly straight.
what I found my number one use for it actually ended up being forehand rollers that just never turned over. They just
That's
kept going
valid.
straight, and then overhands that had just the longest pan ever, or didn't even pan at all. So if a tilt did that for me, if a tilt was like a more extreme version of that, maybe I would like think about it.
Well, that's what I think. There's a use for the tilt. But the issue
people
is
aren't going to use it for that though. They're going to throw it like a Firebird,
and people
it's going to go nowhere.
My whole issue is right now everyone's acting like you have to have a tilt in your bag, and I'm like, that's no.
It's for people who think they need the tilt, or people who need to work on the fact that they wrist roll every.
Yeah, that's the other thing I've seen. That's the other thing I've seen.
Rip
Like,
everything over to the right.
They're like, yeah, all my Firebirds and stuff flip over. I need the tilt to like match my forehand arm speed.
That means you're not very good at throwing forehands.
That means you're just ripping everything.
That means
over.
that you ordered 8 Penroses because you think it's going to change your putting game, but really you just need to work on putting.
Yeah.
I will say a lot of these though depend on like how you view your disc, like what disc golf is to you.
Yeah,
True.
Because as a pro, there's no need to waste space in your bag with a disc you're never going to throw. But if you play disc golf for fun, there's no overrated disc because it's fun. You have this frisbee in your bag because you think it's fun to throw it.
Look
and
at
it's
this guy
fun
getting
to
all
collect
serious.
them. Well, because
Getting
like
deep.
I ran into the same thing with like I play music a lot, and in music you have like a pedal board with all these guitar effects pedals on there, and I'd have people come over to me and be like, your pedal board is way too big, you got too many pedals. I'd be like, well, is this not a hobby? Like, is this not fun for you? Like, I understand if you're like a touring musician and you need to save the space, but
a good point.
I think this is fun, and I think all these things are fun. Same thing with disc golf. I've got a big bag full of a lot of discs, not because I'm traveling on a plane with a bunch of discs and I'm going to play this specific tournament, but because I like them. I like frisbees.
Man, Connor's man of the people.
Yeah, dude. No wonder we have Connor representing the comment section.
Connor's man of the people for that comment.
All right.
My number one is the buzz.
Oh, shoot.
So
I forgot that was even going to be on your list.
Get all stirred up in the comments. Get all stirred up. Here's the thing. The buzz is more so than I've talked about this with pretty much all the discs on my list, but more so than anything, and you talked about it before, it is the disc that people talk about like it is going to change your entire life. People, like if you ask every disc golfer what is the best disc of all time, I bet you Buzz probably wins. It's probably between the Buzz and the Rock, but I think the Buzz I've heard even more so. And I also think if you ask about best mid, Buzz. What's a good straight mid? Get a Buzz.
What's a good overtail? Buzz.
Like
what's
Buzz,
the best
Buzz,
disc for
Buzz.
a beginner?
Buzz seems to just be the answer for
I wanna throw out the Buzz.
every disc golf question. Like it is like a cult. And here's the thing. Buzz is an awesome mid-range. Mm-hmm. I think the Buzz is great. It is a great mid-range. It's just like no disc could possibly be as good as what people say the Buzz is. And more importantly, I have thrown a lot of straight mids from a lot of different companies. And the Buzz is, even if the Buzz was my favorite, which it's not, but even if it was, it isn't that much better than anything else. It can't be, because mid-range discs and discs in any category can only fly so much better than the others. Like they can only glide so much more because they all kind of look similar. They're all made the same way. And like it's not that much more drastic. Like for instance, I was recently sent the Trust.
Yep.
It's this new Royal Line disc. I even handed it to Connor and Hunter to get their opinion. This disc feels almost exactly like a Buzz, maybe a little deeper. And it flies, in my experience, literally the same. So like
now,
that's my last point.
Yeah, you
is
go,
that the
sorry.
Buzz is not hard to replicate.
No.
So this is a question for kind of both of us, because when we were talking about Swanky, right? We said the Firebird and the Destroyer, they were the first ones to do it. I don't know the answer to this. Was the Buzz the first one to be that like 5-speed?
The Rock.
But the Rock was a slower one. The Rock 3, I think, is comparable to the Buzz.
I think the Rock is a little more stable than a Buzz.
They're also beated.
How about the Shark? How about that? I think the Shark actually flies pretty close to a Buzz.
Okay,
and
so
it's
never mind. There we go.
beatless. So
The
Shark was the original. And I thought my Shark is not on my underrated list. I'm just going to tell you now, but I thought very hard about putting it like number one. I didn't, but I could have, because the Shark gets no love and it's awesome.
I think like I had like used to have a bunch of rocks in my bag before like I started trying discraft stuff, because I used to hate discraft. But then I like wanted to try discraft stuff, and I told myself one day I threw one of my rocks like directly into the woods. I was like, I'm gonna go look for it, but if I lose it, I'm switching all my mids out for Buzzes, because I wanted to try them anyway.
Yeah.
And I lost it, so I was like, that's it. And I went out and I like got rid of all my rocks, and I got like Buzzes, and then I threw them, and I was like, frick, I made a mistake. And I got so much worse at disc golf, because I just like all I knew about the Buzz was that it was the best disc of all time. And then I threw it and I was like, this is not
so subjective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that I was going to be able to take this and throw hyzer flips and turnovers, but this disc is like, It's just not what I thought it was.
That is another thing about the Buzz is it really only flies like that amazing disc that people say it is. If you have like you have to have at least 300 plus power.
It's like the
mid-range.
T-Bird back in the day.
Yeah.
People would be
Yeah.
like, the T-Bird is such a good straight fairway. You got to start with the T-Bird. I'm like,
I will say when I see
What?
when I see
T-Bird's
Paul
stable.
when I see Paul throw a Buzz,
Yeah,
is a
it looks
thing of
gorgeous.
beauty. It's a thing of beauty. And like when I throw a Buzz, it flies awesome. It's a great disc. That's not what we're saying because I think the Buzz is a top 2 mid range of all time for me. But it's between that and like I'd say it's like top 5 easily. I can say that confidently. So like it's awesome, but man, it is the most talked about disc ever.
I think the T-Bird's a good comparison because everyone back in the day when Innova was a lot bigger, everyone was saying, even for beginners, you got to throw a T-Bird. It's a great straight fairway. You get
so
a champ
stable.
T-Bird and it is so overstable.
stable.
Yeah.
It takes
Yeah.
an eternity to beat it into straight. But for pros who are throwing T-Birds 400 feet, it flew pretty straight for them.
Yeah.
So I think people just like, oh, well, the pros can do it, so I can throw a T-Bird straight. Even though you go out there and they're like throwing flex shots.
Yeah, I would encourage you anytime you see, if you are a newer player and you see a pro throwing a disc and you really like the way it flies, go ahead and take that speed and subtract like 4 or 5 from it.
So from a mid, go to a putter.
Like let's say the best example would be like, okay, somebody is throwing, you like the way a destroyer is flying and you're like more of a beginner thrower, like go down to like a 9 speed with like similar flight numbers and you might get closer to that flight. Like you gotta just like, don't worry about the name of the disc, like try to match your arm speed.
I think that's good advice.
Yeah.
Like that's just the best
There
way
used to be a
about it.
formula for how far you threw and what arm speed you should be throwing.
What really is honestly the best thing, just like throw your disc in your bag and figure out what flies like you saw that destroyer flies.
Go watch our
and just
fieldwork
know,
video.
Like so you see Paul throw that destroyer and it flips up, or nowadays you see him throw that Zeus and it flips up and it turns. It's like, okay, I want to know what's my Zeus. Well, go throw your disc and see what does it for you, and then just know you can throw it in the same situation.
You can get ahead of so many other disc golfers if you just like
Forget what the name of the disc is.
if you just adopt this mindset.
Yeah.
Because every new disc golfer does this and it hurts them like crazy. They go and they watch pros and they look at the name of the discs and they buy them.
Yeah.
Don't watch pros for what disc they're throwing. Watch pros for what their shot types are. Learn from that. Learn from their decisions and then get better at form and throw discs that fly well for you.
and it's tempting because guess what? We all did the same thing.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If you do that, you'll get ahead of everybody else. If you can get the pride out of
becomes
your
a
head,
pride issue.
Yeah,
I have so much respect for the beginner player that comes out and is like, oh yeah, dude, this is my katana and
Yeah.
I rip this thing. And he does rip that thing. And I'm like, dude, good for you, man. Like, way to throw that katana yeah, man, here's my zombie from Discraft.
Yeah.
And I throw this thing Austin. I'm like, man, good for you, dude. You don't need that Onyx.
Yeah.
You
Dude, why
can't
are
throw-
people hyping up the zombie more? That
They
thing's
don't
sick.
make it right now.
That's true. Never mind.
the zombie.
Zombie's cool.
Zombie's sick.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. But you're not going to see me on this camera because the card is full. But it doesn't matter. You can hear me. That leads me to something that, like, my one disc I'm going to say for overrated, and it might be back in the day. It might not be as much anymore. The Blizzard Boss.
Oh, back in the David Wiggins days.
Because
Yeah, the number one flyest farthing disc,
Flyest farthing.
flyest farthing disc of all time.
That's a good one.
Because everybody was like, "Oh, I gotta get a Blizzard Boss." And
Even Simon broke the
I'll
record
tell you
with it.
what, a Blizzard Boss flies great whenever you've got 600 feet of power and you're in the salt flats.
Yeah, you're in a desert with a 50 mile an hour
Yeah.
tailwind. Like,
All right, really quick, because I feel like we parked on the overrated a lot longer than we probably should have. Underrated. This list, I think we just give our disc, give the reason.
Yeah,
Move on.
no arguing.
Number 5, everyone knows I'm about to say this.
Buzz. Just kidding.
Number 5 most underrated disc is the Nova. I think it used to be on the overrated list when Paul was throwing it, but now that Paul's not
got
throwing
forgotten.
it, everyone just forgot how freaking great that disc is.
good point.
I also named my dog after it. So,
point.
I mean,
My number 5 is the TL because it gets
frick you. That's on my
It
list.
gets so overshadowed by the T-Bird, but people don't realize that the TL will fly for you like the T-Bird does
Yes.
for the Pro.
I was literally about to say that. That's why number 4 is the TL. The
TL
TL is the
is
disc
phenomenal.
everyone thinks the T-Bird is.
It's phenomenal.
It's so good.
My number 4 is the Hurricane. Mostly underrated just because it's DGA, but I think it flies just like a Zeus in my experience.
Mine was way flippier.
Hunter's was not a good run, and it was super flippy. I agree, but the one I had and the one I've seen more often fly, like for Hurricane, is like a flip to flat kind of Zeus-like flight. And I really like the plastic I had mine in. And it's very easy to get your hands on. So that's why it's on my list.
Number 3 for me was the Soul. I feel like I don't.
Yeah, it's still pretty underrated.
I hear people
disc.
talk about it some, but like I think a lot of people just think, oh, this is gonna be the flippiest disc. I don't need it.
Only beginners are into it. Like
Yeah.
I don't see enough advanced players throwing
Like when
it.
I throw the Soul, I can throw it as hard as I want. And it's a great hyzer flip to slow
Yeah.
turn. It's
Yeah.
such a good disc.
Really
and it's so
good disc.
controllable.
It's really easy to get shots that you see people throw with putters, and you're like, man, I wish I had enough touch to throw that. With
Yeah.
the Soul, it's a lot easier to throw those
yeah,
shots.
but people just think, oh, it's a really beginner disc. I'm not a beginner, so I better not throw it. And like, no.
Paige Pierce throws it a lot. And
Yeah.
Paige Pierce has more power than most people
The
watching this.
Soul is a freaking great disc.
Number 3 on my list is the drone.
Oh yeah.
I think the drone gets overshadowed by the zone. I mean, and there's a reason for that, but the drone is a different disc because even though it has a similar flight, it doesn't have quite as much dump in the overstability, and it also is faster. So that's the reason a lot of pros don't bag it, because they can throw that zone that far. But as a not quite as far throwing person, the drone will actually do what the zone would do. Like you should throw a drone actually instead of the zone. And it just gets forgotten about. And I think it's a really great mid-range.
All right, number 2 for me. No one's expecting what's about to come out of my mouth. I guarantee it. The Verdict. That disc.
Wow.
That's
I
funny
love
'cause
that disc.
That's such a funny one.
To me, that disc flies like a fairway driver, but with mid-range distance, to where you can forehand it, you can backhand it, you can put so much power into it, you can do whatever, and you'll get the fairway driver flight, but it's only going to go like the distance of like a 5 or 6 speed. To where like I feel like a
Interesting.
lot of mids like have a very mid-range flight, and you're like, man, I can power down on a fairway or just throw the Verdict hard.
It's funny because the Verdict, as like got somebody who's throwing all dynamic pretty much, the Verdict never really found a spot in my bag. I didn't give it really enough of a chance.
Did you throw like a flat lucid one?
I had all of them. I had a baseline, and I never really. It just doesn't like. It's not a shot I throw very often because like for me, if I have truths that are stable enough, and then
that could be true.
I can jump to the Justice, which is a severe jump, but that slot I don't depend on as much as I used to.
You need to put a heart back in your bag. Watching you throw that Justice yesterday hurt me every time because you would throw it expecting it to be a harp, and that thing would just go so far right so quick.
Here's the thing. I didn't throw it one time yesterday like I meant to. So I can't.
I rest my
every
case.
time I meant to throw it, every time I meant to throw it like that, it came out like this or that. So that like.
But if you would have thrown a harp like this or that,
It's a Trevor Staub special right there.
No, the harp I have to throw not quite as severe. The harp I took out of my bag, I think, as I was trying out a new putter at one point. Like it's not like I was like, "You're out of my."
I know
bag.
you just need to put it back in.
I just keep forgetting.
But the Verdict, I also think the Verdict's one of the best forehand mid ranges.
That's
of
a
all time.
good pick because I do hear a lot of good things of the Verdict, and I'm sure I'll try it again at some point.
I just don't hear enough good things.
I
about the
rotate
Verdict.
my mids in and out a lot right now. Like I just put that compass in there. I like to try them out.
Yeah.
That's a good pick though. My number 2 is my second favorite disc. The number 2 and number 1 for me are my second and first favorite discs of all time. Number 2 is the Beast. It's my
Nice.
second
That's
favorite
a good
disc of all
one.
time.
I know what your number 1 is.
I hope you both do probably because you know my favorite
Yeah,
disc is.
I know exactly. What it is.
The Beast.
It's the tilt.
The Beast was the first disc that I was ever able to throw pretty far as a beginner. And I had Beast in my bag up until college. Like I used to have, even into college, I would have like 3 Beasts in my bag. I would have one that was ridiculously flippy, one that was just like a massive distance disc, and you could get them pretty stable. And like the Jolly Launcher, like the stiffer plastic, they would like flip to flat and not really even turn. The Beast, if you are a beginner and you're getting to that point where you're finally you're ready to chew off a little more disc, you're going to move up from the mids or the fairways up to something a little faster, get a Beast. The Beast is so good and nobody throws it. Barry Schultz throws it. He threw it all the time, but like it did not get Innova love. And I understand like if you're Paul's of the world, like you might have a little too much arm speed. I get that. But it is an effortless distance disc and it's awesome.
All right, number 1 most underrated disc of all time. It's kind of similar to the drone for you.
Yeah.
Is the Recluse from Legacy.
Oh, you love that thing.
That
It is
thing,
a good disc.
it's the exact same type thing where like a shot where I see Brody forehand a zone.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I can just forehand my Recluse. Like it doesn't have enough glide to where I have to worry about it, and it's overstable enough that I know the headwind's not touching it, but I can rip on it forehand and like know I can get it to like 250 or 3. I mean, I don't know how far my forehand goes, so saying 300 for a mid just sounds absurd to me, but maybe that's accurate. Basically, like it's like I have my Firebird, then I have my Recluse, then I have my zone. And so like it's just all three of those are my forehand discs, and I throw it backhand a lot. But I never have heard anyone talk about it. I just picked it up when it came into our shop, and I was like, this thing feels so good that I know it's gonna fly good. And then I threw it, and I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
I think if more people would throw it, people would fall in love with it.
You got Mikey in love with that disc.
It's so good. It's like a Justice that goes straighter.
Yeah, it pushes more.
Yeah, it pushes more. It doesn't
Yeah.
get to the ground so
It's a
fast,
good
but
disc.
it's like very overstable like that.
My number one underrated disc of all time is my favorite disc of all time, and is the Wraith.
Yeah.
And the Wraith isn't incredible. I wouldn't say it's like criminally underrated, but I think it is just because of how much it's overshadowed by the Destroyer and the fact that people fail to realize that all you guys who are just lacking a little bit of arm speed and have to beat in those Destroyers for years before they flip up, all you have to do is pick up a Wraith. It is literally one speed less, and right out of the box, it's going to fly straight to stable, and then before long, it is going to be hyzer flip money. Like, it is such a good disc. Drew Gibson understands. Drew Gibson throws hard, people. He throws really hard, and he throws a Wraith off the tee more than any other disc, or at least he was for
Double
a good
G
stretch.
throws race a lot too.
Yeah, they are awesome discs, and I think they're starting to get a little more popular again. But oh my goodness, like the Wraith is just so good.
They're really comfortable too.
Yeah, it was.
I might put one in my bag.
I might put one in my bag too. You convinced me.
Trevor's
was a
been
time-
trying to convince me for a long time.
I know.
There was a time where I always had 3 Wraiths in my bag, and I had 2 of those Wraiths in my bag for like 3 or 4 years. And like whenever I was playing my best disc golf, I had this light blue Wraith that I threw for almost every tee shot, and it was just like I could point, and it was just landing right there. Like it was awesome. Left it in a practice field one day. But here's the other thing about the Wraith. I got a couple more, and they fly just the same.
You replaced it with that orange one.
No, the orange one I had in my bag for the longest. That one was.
But
like
that
a
became
roller.
like
No,
there was. What did you throw at Steady Ed hole 1? We got the Eagle.
that was the blue one.
That was old
still
blue?
the blue one.
Oh.
The blue one I lost it like after my college days, but then I had a few more. But the Wraith, amazing, great disc.
I've got just a couple things to say.
Yeah,
really quick.
go for
I've
it,
got
go for it.
my generalization, but I'll say that for last. First 2 discs, I know that you'll agree with me on one.
Are these under or over?
These are underrated.
Okay.
The Force,
Yes.
a very
Yes.
underrated disc.
Yeah.
One of the
Mostly
best-
because people don't realize.
People
how
don't
much
realize.
it's thrown.
Yeah.
Probably-
People don't realize who's throwing it, how much they're throwing
It's
it.
probably the best distance driver that Discraft makes.
Yeah.
I'll say. And then the second one is the Wasp. It's incredible. It's a glidey, overstable mid range.
I never had good luck with a Wasp.
love-
And
the
a
Wasp.
Wasp is the most comfortable mid range to me. But that just depends on how you like the feel.
That's the,
mid-ranges.
yeah, it's back to the comfortability
To me, it's just
thing.
comfort. And then my third thing, over generalization, whatever. Baseline plastic is so underrated these days.
That's
Yeah,
a great
that's a
point,
great one.
It
man.
used to be such a thing to have so many.
It's once people got away from the old
Yeah.
Innova.
I know,
That's a
but
great
like,
point.
and like I missed that so much whenever I started throwing Discraft stuff because I'm such a big Paul fanboy. I was throwing everything in premium plastics, and I was like, I'm just not getting anything because there's nothing like having a really overstable mold that's beat to crap and flies flippy because it doesn't fly like a flippy disc.
No.
A Mako 3 is never gonna fly like a beat in Casey Rock.
Yeah.
Because you get
beating Casey Rocks.
because
I might
you
pull
get,
it back in my
Woo!
bag.
You get longer glide. If it's
Yeah.
flippy, it glides longer because there's still part of the disc that wants to fight back. But if you
Yeah.
take a Meteor, it's not gonna.
Once it gets over, they're not coming back.
Exactly.
Once you get like a beat in Rock 3, I used to make Pro Rock 3s and they just flip up and they just glide forever
Yeah.
and then have that hyzer at the end. There's nothing like it.
man.
Yeah.
There's nothing
That's
like
such a good point,
Another
man.
thing is like
Baseline
if you see a
plastic.
pro throw a disc and you wish you could throw it like that, maybe even try that disc but in a baseline plastic.
It's true,
You
man.
could do that too because then it'll
Not
beat
enough
up quicker.
companies are focused on making like their flagship molds in like good baseline plastic.
Why Discraft is not cranking out CT
'Cause
for
CT
everything
I know.
is
Oh my
mind-boggling.
gosh.
to
I
me.
don't
CT
understand.
Buzz would be amazing.
And
That's what
I'm
I'm saying.
surprised, considering how much all Paul threw was make Pro Rock 3s. I'm surprised that wasn't one of his first requests when he went to Discraft was
We're gonna
Hey,
see a CT Malta.
there's gonna
it's
be
gonna happen. There's no way around it.
Eventually, yeah, he'll have. I'm sure he'll do it
Because
but,
he
like,
loves the CT Wasp. Is
I
like
can't believe
a
it's been
huge disc
years
with that.
and he didn't like. It wasn't the first thing he wanted. It was like, hey, I need my baseline mid that I throw.
Well, I think it's
waited,
because
yeah.
I
I
think
guess
the
he just didn't have a
buzz,
problem with it. But see,
the
here's
buzz
other thing
flew
is,
like
though,
a McPro Rock 3.
Paul has dry
Yeah.
hands though, so he doesn't have an issue with the grip.
No.
Like my whole thing was like for baseline, like the beat in thing, like is true, but like honestly for me, I think baseline is underrated because it's so much easier for me to hang on to as somebody that has hands that sweat. Or in the rain, I would load my bag up with baseline.
I did that with Prodigy. I had like a 300 series bag that like if it was gonna rain, I just
because like it's
300.
so much. It gives me so much more confidence holding onto that disc that I'm gonna get good grip on it. Baseline, very underrated.
That's a great point, Connor.
Great point.
That's a good way to end that segment.
All I have to say.
Before we roll into the next segment, I want to just give a shout out to our Patreon only podcast, the Bogey Bro Banter. Today, you might have heard us talk about our Raleigh trip here and there throughout this podcast. We are going to be going a little bit more into detail. We won't spoil the videos that came out, but talking a little bit about some of the funny stories from the trip, some of the things that happened while we were in Raleigh, disc golf store we went to, all of that. If you want to check that out, for $5 a month, you get 4 episodes of the Bogey Bro Banter and 1 exclusive video, as well as a bunch of other benefits. You can check it out at patreon.com/foundation disc golf. Link will be in the description below as well. But now it's time to get into the fan favorite segment, Trevor's Trivia. What do you got today?
All right, we got a pretty simple one today. We've got the GBO coming up, or not GBO, DGLO coming up. My question does not have to do with GBO. I just decided
and we're going to throw a wrench in it. We're talking about GBO.
We got the DGLO coming up. As we all know, it's at the famous toboggan course, and there was a pretty famous round a few years ago at the toboggan course from Paul.
Willie Prince, 15.
Shooting 18 under. So during that 18 under magical round at the toboggan course, he had 1 par and 1 eagle. Which holes were they?
Crap. He almost had 2 eagles because like hole 3 or whatever it was, almost threw in
the basket. Yeah.
I feel like is it either the eagle or par is hole 16?
Wrong.
Never mind then. I don't know. Oh, Connor's confident.
I think it's hole 12.
Which one?
The par.
No.
Is the eagle hole 12?
Or hole 15.
Okay, so we're just
Nobody said the correct number yet.
All right.
hole 4.
No.
Hole 5.
No.
Hole 6.
No.
Hole 7.
No.
10?
Yes. For which one?
Par.
Yeah. The par was hole 10.
And the eagle was hole
You said something earlier that would lead me to believe that you do know what it was.
16.
No.
15.
No.
14.
No.
2.
Yes.
Oh.
What
Because
did I say that
he
late?
said he almost because when you said he almost had 2 eagles, the eagles were almost back to back.
I didn't remember they were back to back.
Ah.
I just remember the one. It was hole 3 that it skipped, right?
The audience all knew that one.
Yeah,
Good
the
job,
audience
Trevor.
definitely knew.
Good job, Trevor.
I'm an idiot.
Hole 2 is the eagle. Hole 10 is a par. 18 under.
18 under.
Incredible round.
So with DGLO, this is the first year we're going to see Nate Heinold at the helm of this tournament. He signed that multi-year contract with Discraft, making him the TD of DGLO and Ledgestone a little while ago. And with Nate Heinold being at the helm, there's some course changes that have happened. The first one, and probably the one that the pros are most excited about, is you replace the temp tees with permanent concrete tees. It is a temp course, but now they have permanent concrete tees. This is also, he was also able to do this at like Ledgestone at Lake Eureka when like the course isn't normally in, but he was able to convince the parks department to like put tees in places.
Not baskets, just the tees, so that like
yeah.
Oh, that's
it's
cool.
pretty because then like I guess like the idea is like, well, concrete doesn't really take up anything. We'll do all the work and you can still mow right over it. But
That's
that way,
cool.
when the pros are there, so that's kind of cool. And he also said, this is Nate Heinold, a quote from Nate Heinold on an Ultra World article said, "I met with Discraft's Bob Giulio and Mike Wagner last fall and gave them a pretty large vision for some changes. They were shocked that it included less OB, but that was my goal. The toboggan course is one of the most beautiful pieces of land on tour, and in my opinion, it doesn't need a bunch of artificial OB. We walked through the course several times, and the 3 of us came up with a great plan." Which, the reason I brought that quote in is when you think of Ledgestone and you think of Eureka Temp, you think of artificial OB. Mm-hmm. So to hear the same course designer
he's talking about Eureka right now.
No, he's talking about toboggan.
Oh, okay.
So to hear the same course designer from Eureka, Nate Heinold, go to toboggan and be like, well, this property actually less OB. I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool to give.
I'm confused because the toboggan course gets shredded a lot of like. It can be shredded.
It can be.
So if you
but
take
there's
away
a
the
few
OB,
other
I don't
changes.
know.
They moved tee pads. They combined some of the holes.
I'm
took
sure
out
they
some of the
evened
weaker
it out.
holes. Hole 5 is also now going to be like kind of an iconic hole because it's got that like red carpet
That's
fairway.
cool. That's
so sick.
I love signature holes in disc golf are so good, and like I wish we were literally just talking about yesterday how holes should be named more often. So
I put that in my notes.
So the red carpet hole, that's so cool. We're like, oh, the red carpet hole is up next. Like it makes it so much easier to recall a hole. Like there are some holes like USDGC, we know 17, but it doesn't have a name.
Well, it doesn't need a name. Hole 17. If you mention hole 17 in general,
but why doesn't it? It should have.
I think hole 17 is just.
They
iconic.
could just call it the island. I don't care. Like it can be called that.
But you can
it's
just call
the
it
best
the
one.
hole 17. I guarantee if you walk into a
That's
disc
so
golf room,
lame, though.
But
It could have the
is
coolest
it,
name
or is
ever.
it kind of sick?
It is now because we know it as the whole 17.
But it's kind of sick, I think. I want to make sure to say hole 17.
But had it had a name from the get-go, we would have an awesome name for it right now, and we would all know it as that name.
I agree with
like
most holes.
Medusa. Like, oh man, once they
Yeah,
get to Medusa.
Clemson. When you say Medusa, I immediately think of Clemson,
Exactly.
the Grand Central Station.
That's what I'm saying. I think we need to encourage more of that.
Yeah,
and
'cause, like-
you can still name holes that don't have names. Like, it doesn't have to be new courses. Like, go
No,
back
yeah.
and make a red carpet
Well,
on a hole.
you don't need to name every single hole.
No,
But like hole
the
one,
signature ones.
Diavolo or Diavolo. I forget how they said to pronounce it, but he like
Diavolo.
he said it was the like the alphabet,
alphabet hole.
because the trees in the middle made like an X, a Y, two Z's, an A, like all these different like the way they all crisscrossed.
Yeah, it's just a fun thing.
But like
and
I'll
it's-
always now remember the
here's another
alphabet
thing.
hole.
And naming those holes is not difficult. If you're the course designer, just walk through and just think of cool names.
This one's Bob.
like
No,
just,
I was over on Larry the other day.
okay. They had another one at the course we played that was called the keyhole because it was shaped like a key. The hole, like the gap in the woods, was shaped like a key, so they called it the keyhole. I was like, that's cool.
That is cool.
Let's do more of that. That's all.
Yeah, they said a few other tee pads have been moved, and they combined some holes that eliminate some of the quote unquote weaker holes on the course. So should be definitely an interesting tournament. Should be a lot of fun to watch. It's always fun to watch. Let's get into some predictions. This is actually kind of tough because I feel like this tournament, like,
It's not that tough, man. Let's just write our generic predictions.
well, I have
to get it
very
over with.
generic predictions,
Same.
but I'm saying this tournament can produce some parity.
It can.
So like last year, Paul came in 10th, and Eagle won, and Ricky came in 2nd.
yeah.
I think Paul's about to win again this year.
Yeah.
I'm going Paul, Eagle, Ricky, most generic three of all time, but I feel like there's a chance of someone sneaking into the top three. I just want to, like, Chris Dickerson snuck up there last year.
Yeah.
I don't know who else it'll be, but
I'm going Paul, Eagle. Eagle might win.
he won last year.
I'm giving Paul the edge because he has the momentum, but Eagle on this course can bomb.
Yeah.
So and then I'm gonna sneak Kevin Jones in the third. You know, I feel like the course suits his game. He can throw those like long turnover shots really well. Those like hyzer flips.
Wonder where did he play last year?
He has room to make the disc fly. So I'm gonna go ahead and give Kevin third.
I want to see last year where Kevin came because that's a great pick. I didn't even think of Kevin.
Thank you.
He came in 4th last year.
Come on,
He
what a
lost
pick.
by 2 strokes.
What a pick.
That's a great pick. How did I not see him?
Just intuition, man.
On FPO,
We're gonna make our dark horse pick.
yeah, I was gonna go FPO first, but we can go dark
Okay.
horse now.
Last time you did it the other way around.
I know.
So
I
I'm
switch it up.
confused.
I keep everyone on their toes.
I'm on my toes.
Connor looks like he's still scrolling for his dark horse pick, so we'll go FPO
I
and
have
give Connor a
the
few
easiest
seconds.
dark horse pick of all time. If I lose this week,
You're gonna lose this week.
did I win this past week?
Yeah, Connor owes you a coffee.
I Venmo'd you.
Yeah, you did.
No, nice. There you go. For the Open Women,
You're a very rare win. It's my second one.
I've got Paige Pierce taking it down, Katrina Allen coming in second, and Missy Gannon coming in third. Mainly because Missy Gannon just is
momentum.
coming off of her win, and also last year she kind of popped off the final round. I remember on coverage.
Yeah.
But I was looking at it, and Paige Pierce, like, I know that she's struggled on and off this year, but it's so hard to imagine her not winning.
I know it's still
this
so
course.
difficult. I got Paige, Cat, Kristen, Tatar.
Kristen Tatar, that's a great pick too.
Yeah.
All right, dark horse pick. We'll let Trevor go first because his is the
I've got the
obvious
simplest one ever, and it's Willie Prince. Not only is he 999 rated, but he obviously popped off a few years ago. Like, there's a great chance that he goes off. So like, it was the most like stare you in the face pick. But that being said, it'll probably lose because it's me. So, but hey, I'm on a 1-win streak. So
I'm also taking a 999 rated player. This player I think we've taken before, Zach Arlingus,
yeah, the young guy.
because he's a crusher. He's a young kid. I actually don't know. I think he's like 16 or 17,
He's still young.
but he's filthy. He beat me when he was 12 years old. I think I've told that story a few times.
Nice.
Yeah, so I think he's got a good shot at a course like this to pop off and get up there. He's from Kentucky, so he's not really from the area, but I don't think that's really going to matter. So we have Willie Prince, Zach Arlingus.
I'm gonna go Patrick Burke. He's 997 rated. He's from Michigan,
Nice.
and he's done pretty well this year. He finished third at an A tier, the Michigan Disc Golf Hall of Fame Classic. And
Nice.
other than that, he's played pretty well as well. So I think he's gonna do
Dude,
well.
we should start a Virginia Disc Golf Hall of Fame.
All right.
Does it exist yet?
No, not that I know of.
And
It might.
we can induct you, very first member.
Yeah.
And then just
Who would
end
be
it.
the first? Who would be like the
Silas.
first dude? Kenny Palmer is going into the.
Bob Cannon
Who's that?
would go. He's been the state director for Virginia for as long as I've played disc golf.
Kenny's on his way with all these courses.
Another person would be
Paul
John
Macbeth.
Bisco. John Bisco?
I haven't lived here long enough. I know that name.
Hawk Hollow. It's his property.
I haven't been there.
He designed Lake Marshall, I think was partially his design.
Oh, okay. I know his name.
Yeah, he's designed a lot of courses around here, and he runs a lot of tournaments. So
and Alex Bush. But he's
Alex Bush.
Yeah.
He's still in Virginia.
Yeah, he would for sure.
He'd have to go up there. There's a lot of people that could fit that bill.
cool.
That would be kind of cool. Maybe it already exists and we just don't know about it.
Probably does.
All right, it's time to wrap the show up with a make that call. I'm gonna put you in quite an interesting scenario. I think you'll know the answer to this one, but you've definitely never been in this scenario, so I'm gonna just see. So you finally make it out to California to play in a tournament. Oh man, you finally made
Is
it.
it a 2 meter rule thing?
The 2 meter rule is in effect.
Oh my gosh, dude, I can't stand it.
You step up to the tee, you line up your shot, you let it rip. Oh no, it's stuck onto your hand.
On Scoggins.
It's going straight to the right. How is it not hitting anything? It's flying so far into the woods. Boom.
I'm excited.
Stuck into a tree.
Ah, rats.
Your tee shot is now 250 feet off the line. Stuck up in a tree.
Yeah, it was.
You're looking
back.
at it. You're looking at it. You're like, man, you know what? I'm going to abandon my lie and re-tee.
No.
Are you throwing 3 or are you throwing 4?
I'm on the
Since
edge of my
2 meter rules
seat
in
right
effect and
now.
your disc is stuck up in a tree.
No way. There's no way you would give me this ruling if I wasn't throwing 4, but I'm about to be so mad. Okay, well, this is weird, though, because if you throw OB and abandon your lie, you're throwing 3, correct?
I'm not answering any questions.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that's true. Yes, that actually might not be true.
You can also think about if you missed a Mando, pretty much anything. This rule is the same rule from any penalties.
I think we've had something like this before where there's like a double penalty applied. Because actually, when I think about people abandoning their lie, a lot of times it's on a putt roll away. So that's when I think about it. And then it's like, oof. And this isn't an out of bounds shot, though. So this is a unique one. This is an inbound shot, but it's the 2 meter rule. I'm going to say you're throwing 4 because I know the PDGA would do something like that.
Incorrect.
Thank
You're throwing
goodness.
3.
I'm not even-
As you declare and you're abandoning your try, you count the original throw and add 1 penalty throw for abandoning the throw.
I know that was bait, and I took the bait, but good bait.
Yeah. Penalties incurred on abandoned throw are not counted.
That was good bait. I took it. It was yummy.
Yeah, I also think that like the general rule with the PDGA is like you can't stack penalties, so whichever one is the like harsher
I could have
penalty.
sworn we had one where there was a stack, but maybe it was like the harsher thing. I don't remember.
I think it's like the harsher one because like if you miss a Mando and you abandon your lie, it's 1 stroke.
okay.
If
Well,
you
that
throw a
makes
B and
sense.
abandon
You
your lie, it's
shouldn't
1
stack
stroke.
penalties.
But there's something where like a 2-stroke penalty, like a scoring error. What would be a 2-stroke penalty other than a scoring error?
I don't know.
Aren't they all 1 stroke?
I think so.
I don't know. Doesn't matter. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. If you're interested in listening to the Bogey Bro banter, head over to patreon.com/Foundation Disc Golf and tune in. You can also listen to the previous 2 episodes. Last week we had Brody on. It was like an hour-long episode. Lots of funny moments in there. And the week before that, we just talked about a little bit of our weekly. This week we're going to talk, like I said, about Raleigh. Should be a lot of fun. And we will talk to you next week.